Welcome to Trivia on Tap, where we prepare you to win bar trivia and increase your general knowledge. Subscribe for daily trivia videos and comment below with how many answers you got correct. Let's get started with some mathematical theorems trivia. Which theorem states that the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees? Is it A, Pythagorean theorem, B, triangle sum theorem, C, transversal theorem, or D, Euclidean theorem? The correct answer is B, triangle sum theorem. Which theorem provides a formula for the area of a triangle given its side lengths? Is it A, Heron's theorem, or B, triangle inequality theorem, or C, Euler's formula, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is A, Heron's theorem. Which theorem in number theory states that every natural number is either a prime or can be factored into primes? Is it A, Goldbach's conjecture, or B, Euclid's theorem, or C, fundamental theorem of arithmetic, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is C, fundamental theorem of arithmetic. What is the name of the theorem that describes the relationship between the sides of a right triangle? Is it A, Fermat's last theorem, or B, Euler's formula, or C, Newton's law, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is D, Pythagorean theorem. Which theorem states that the sum of the squares of the lengths of the diagonals of a parallelogram is equal to the sum of the squares of the lengths of all four sides? Is it A, quadrilateral rule, B, diagonal formula, C, parallelogram law, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is C, parallelogram law. Which theorem explains the conditions under which a function has a root within an interval? Is it A, intermediate value theorem, B, fundamental theorem of calculus, C, Pythagorean theorem, or D, mean value theorem? The correct answer is A, intermediate value theorem. Which theorem states that every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence? A, fundamental theorem of calculus, or B, Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, or C, Gauss's theorem, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is B, Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. What is the name of the theorem that states that every continuous function defined on a closed interval has a maximum and minimum? Is it A, extreme value theorem, B, intermediate value theorem, C, Rolle's theorem, or D, fundamental theorem of calculus? The correct answer is A, extreme value theorem. Which theorem states that the derivative of the antiderivative of a function is the function itself? Is it A, Pythagorean theorem, or B, fundamental theorem of calculus, or C, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, or D, Bernoulli's principle? The correct answer is B, fundamental theorem of calculus. Which theorem states that the integral of a differential form over the boundary of an oriented manifold is equal to the integral of its exterior derivative over the manifold? A, Stokes's theorem, B, Pythagoras' theorem, C, Green's theorem, or D, Fermat's last theorem? The correct answer is A, Stokes' theorem. Which theorem in topology states that every continuous function from a compact convex set to itself has a fixed point? Is it A, Nash equilibrium theorem, or B, Banach's fixed point theorem, or C, Cantor's theorem, or D, Brouwer fixed point theorem? The correct answer is D, Brouwer fixed point theorem. Which theorem provides a way to transform a double integral into an iterated integral? Is it A, Bayes' theorem, or B, Pythagorean theorem, or C, Green's theorem, or D, Fubini's theorem? The correct answer is D, Fubini's theorem. Which theorem states that any two sides of a triangle sum to more than the third side? A. Triangle inequality theorem, or B. Euler's formula, or C. Trigonometric identity, or D. Pythagorean theorem. The correct answer is A. Triangle inequality theorem. Which theorem in calculus states that a continuous function on a closed interval is uniformly continuous? Is it A. Heine-Cantor theorem, B. Fundamental theorem of calculus, C. Mean value theorem, or D. Rolle's theorem? The correct answer is A. Heine-Cantor theorem. Which theorem in number theory states that there are infinitely many prime numbers? Is it A. Pythagorean theorem, or B. Euclid's theorem, or C. Riemann's hypothesis, or D. Fermat's theorem? The correct answer is B. Euclid's theorem. Which theorem states that for any matrix there exists a decomposition into a product of three matrices, an orthogonal matrix, a diagonal matrix, and another orthogonal matrix? Is it A. Singular value decomposition, or B. Pythagorean theorem, or C. Eigenvalue decomposition, or D. Gaussian elimination? The correct answer is A. Singular value decomposition. Which theorem states that the number of spanning trees in a connected graph can be calculated using a specific matrix determinant? Is it A. Pythagorean theorem, B. Kirchhoff's theorem, C. Euler's formula, or D. Hamilton's rule? The correct answer is B. Kirchhoff's theorem. Which theorem in algebra states that a polynomial equation of degree n has exactly n roots, counting multiplicities? Is it A. Fundamental theorem of algebra, B. Pythagorean theorem, C. Associative law, or D. Distributive property? The correct answer is A. Fundamental theorem of algebra. Which theorem in analysis states that the set of rational numbers is dense in the real numbers? Is it A. Completeness theorem, B. Archimedean property, C. Density of rationals theorem, or D. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem? The correct answer is C. Density of rationals theorem. Which theorem states that a continuous function on a closed interval can be approximated by polynomials? Is it A. Taylor's theorem, or B. Fourier's theorem, or C. Bernoulli's theorem, or D. Weierstrass approximation theorem? The correct answer is D. Weierstrass approximation theorem. Which theorem in algebra states that the sum of the degrees of the vertices of a graph is twice the number of edges? Is it A. Euler's theorem, or B. Gaussian elimination, or C. Handshaking lemma, or D. Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is C. Handshaking lemma. Which theorem in calculus states that a function that is differentiable at a point is continuous at that point? Is it A. Intermediate value theorem, or B. Differentiability implies continuity, or C. Fundamental theorem of calculus, or D. Rolle's theorem? The correct answer is B. Differentiability implies continuity. Which theorem in linear algebra states that every linear operator on a finite-dimensional vector space has an eigenvalue? Is it A. Spectral theorem, B. Rank nullity theorem, C. Eigenvalue theorem, or D. Cayley-Hamilton theorem? The correct answer is A. Spectral theorem. Which theorem in geometry states that the sum of the internal angles of a polygon is equal to n2 times 180 degrees? Is it A. Pythagorean theorem, B. Polygon angle sum theorem, C. Angle subtraction postulate, or D. Euclid's postulate? The correct answer is B. Polygon angle sum theorem. Which theorem states that for every ed greater than 0, there is ed greater than 0, such that if the distance between x and c is less than thava, then the distance between f of x and L is less than Ember? Is it A. Bayes' theorem, or B. Fermat's last theorem, or C. Pythagorean theorem, or D. Epsilon delta definition? The correct answer is D. Epsilon delta definition. Which theorem in linear algebra provides conditions under which a matrix can be diagonalized? Is it A. Matrix factorization theorem, or B. Diagonalization theorem, or C. Cayley-Hamilton theorem, or D. Rank nullity theorem? The correct answer is B. Diagonalization theorem. Which theorem states that for any real-valued function that is continuous on a closed interval, there exists at least one point where the derivative is zero? Is it A. Fermat's theorem, or B. Pythagorean theorem, or C. Rolle's theorem, or D. Mean-value theorem? The correct answer is C. Rolle's theorem. Which theorem in calculus states that the integral of a product of functions can be found using an antiderivative of one of the functions? Is it A. Derivative product rule, or B. Fundamental theorem of calculus, or C. Chain rule, or D. Integration by parts? The correct answer is D. Integration by parts. Which theorem in linear algebra states that the rank of a matrix plus the nullity of the matrix equals the number of columns of the matrix? Is it A. Gauss-Markov theorem, or B. Eigenvalue theorem, or C. Determinant theorem, or D. Rank nullity theorem? The correct answer is D. Rank nullity theorem. Which theorem in topology states that any non-empty compact convex subset of a Euclidean space is the closed convex hull of its extreme points? Is it A. Hahn-Banach theorem, B. Krein-Milman theorem, C. Tychonoff's theorem, D. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem? Your possible solutions are A. Hahn-Banach theorem, or B. Krein-Milman theorem, or C. Tychonoff's theorem, or D. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. The correct answer is B. Krein-Milman theorem. Which theorem in analysis provides the conditions under which a series converges absolutely if and only if it converges? Is it A. Ratio test, B. P-series test, C. Absolute convergence theorem, or D. Fundamental theorem of calculus? The correct answer is C. Absolute convergence theorem. Which theorem states that the determinant of a matrix is equal to the product of its eigenvalues? Is it A. Pythagorean theorem, B. Cramer's rule, C. Eigenvalue theorem, or D. Matrix theorem? The correct answer is C. Eigenvalue theorem. Which theorem in number theory states that for any non-negative integer k, there are infinitely many prime numbers of the form 4k plus 1? Is it A. Dirichlet's theorem, or B. Wilson's theorem, or C. Euclid's theorem, or D. Fermat's theorem? The correct answer is A. Dirichlet's theorem. Which theorem in linear algebra states that every matrix is similar to a Jordan form matrix? Is it A. Rank nullity theorem, B. Frobenius theorem, C. Eigenvalue theorem, or D. Jordan form theorem? The correct answer is D. Jordan form theorem. Which theorem in analysis states that a sequence is convergent if and only if it is Cauchy? Is it A. Cauchy convergence criterion, B. Banach's fixed point theorem, C. Heine-Borel theorem, or D. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem? The correct answer is A. Cauchy convergence criterion. Which theorem in topology states that a compact space is sequentially compact? Is it A. Heine-Borel theorem, or B. Open mapping theorem, or C. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, or D. Sequential compactness theorem? The correct answer is D. Sequential compactness theorem. Which theorem in analysis states that every continuous function defined on a closed interval is Riemann integrable? Is it A, Riemann integrability, or B, mean value theorem, or C, intermediate value theorem, or D, fundamental theorem of calculus? The correct answer is A, Riemann integrability. Which theorem in topology states that every open cover of a compact space has a finite subcover? Is it A, Pythagorean theorem, B, Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, C, Euler's formula, or D, Heine-Borel theorem? The correct answer is D, Heine-Borel theorem. Which theorem in number theory states that every positive integer can be written as a sum of four squares? Is it A, Euler's sum theorem, B, Lagrange's four-square theorem, C, Fermat's last theorem, or D, Pythagorean theorem? The correct answer is B, Lagrange's four-square theorem. Thanks for watching. Comment with how many questions you got correct. Should we make the next video have easier or harder problems? Was the difficulty just right? Do you have suggestions for future trivia topics? Don't forget to drop a like and sub if you enjoyed the video.